Where are we going? California. Northern, just north of San Francisco. Granddaughter's the lead in the play. So.
I got a buddy getting married this summer out there somewhere, so we might go out there. Sacramento's where it is.
Thank you.
Welcome to our meeting. The date is February 10, 2026. The time is 7 p.m. This is an open meeting of the Grand Island City Council. The City of Grand Island abides by the Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is displayed in the back of this room as required by state law. The City Council may vote to go into closed session on any agenda item as allowed by state law. Now I ask that you stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Deputy City Clerk will now perform roll call.
Councilmember Sheard.
Present.
Councilmember Stelk will be absent. Councilmember Connolly.
Present.
Councilmember Nickerson.
Present.
Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Haase.
Present.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Present.
Council President O'Neill.
Present.
Councilmember Pollock will be absent. Councilmember Lanfear.
Present.
And Mayor Steele.
Present. Also present are Sonia Cisneros, the Deputy City Clerk, Patrick Brown, the City Administrator, Stacy Nonhoff, the Assistant City Attorney, and Keith Kurtz, the Public Works Director. Individuals who have appropriate items for City Council consideration should complete the request for future agenda items form located at the information booth. If the issue can be handled administratively without council action, notification will be provided. If the item is scheduled for a meeting or study session, notification of the date will be given. Council members, do you wish to remove any items from tonight's consent agenda? Hearing none, we shall continue. A sign-up sheet was available in the lobby for individuals wishing to provide input on any of tonight's agenda items. If you did not sign up to speak on an agenda item, please come forward, state your name and the agenda topic on which you will be speaking.
Chris Reha, site acquisition for the VR Wireless Network, 1811 West 2nd, Suite 455, GI 68803. Wish to speak on public hearings C.
Thank you.
Simpson of the law firm of Brunner Frank. I'm here to talk with regard to public hearing 7A and my client Tata Hospitality and its proprietor Paul Eunice. Thank you.
Council members, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. O'Neill.
I move we approve consent agenda items A through M.
And Mr. Lanfear. I second. Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Public hearing 7A. Public hearing request from Tata Hospitality, Inc., doing business as Hampton Inn, 3441 Innate Lane, Grand Island, Nebraska, for a Class C liquor license. Mrs. Cisneros?
An application for a Class C liquor license was filed with the Liquor Council Commission and received by the council on January 14th, 2026. A notice to general public of date, time, and place of hearing was published on January 31st, 2026. A notice to applicant of date, time, and place of hearing was mailed on January 14th, 2026, along with Chapter 4 City Code Alcoholic Beverages. Departmental reports were received as required by City Code, and recommendation is to approve upon final inspection. Public hearing is now open. Would anybody like to speak on this item? I think we have Luke.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Luke Simpson of the law firm of Brunner Frank. I'm here on behalf of my client, Tata Hospitality, and its proprietor, Paul Eunice. This is a new property in Grand Island. It's a 5-floor limited service hotel. The franchises of these properties now require us to get liquor licenses to have alcoholic beverages in the market areas. That's the purpose for this application. We have 2 other properties in town, Fairfield Inn and Candlewood Suites. This would be no different than those licenses. I am here to answer any questions you may have.
And we'll see if they have any after we ask for a motion. Thank you, sir. Mr. Hossie?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 2026-36.
Mr. Sheard?
Thank you. I second.
Any discussion?
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Public hearing 7B. Public hearing on request from Amy Webster for conditional use permit to allow for a small RV campground site located at 1333 East Stolly Park Road. Good evening, Mr. Nabity.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The item before you this evening is a request for a conditional use permit. The property is zoned large lot or zoned transitional agriculture. Within the transitional agriculture district, an RV park is specifically called out as a permitted conditional use. That does mean that it has to come before the city council for a public hearing, and you can put conditions on that particular use. We have suggested a number of conditions. They were in the memo and in the resolution that is attached if you choose to approve this. Again, this is a permitted conditional use within the area. The conditions that we have placed on this include limiting it to 8 spots, to include no storage of campers there other than on the RV pads. The RV pads would have to be improved, concrete pads meeting the minimum requirements that is currently in city code for RV pads. Doesn't mean it has to be all concrete. You can have tracks for the wheels that are concreted and rock or dirt in between those, but you do have to have concrete pads and parking on site for each RV pad. The intent is to hook these up to electric and have sewer hookups. It would be septic system. They would have to meet all of the requirements for the septic system as required by the Department of Environmental Quality or Department of Water, Environment, and Energy. They changed their name last June, and I'm not used to it. The applicant would be responsible for maintaining the property and keeping it in an orderly manner, and would also be required to plant at least twice as many trees and shrubs along the area where this RV park is, which is the very northwest corner of this property at the intersection of Stewart Road and Stolly Park Road, as would be required for a typical commercial development. Now, having seen the plans that Ms. Webster submitted, she is showing substantially more trees than even that. And you've got a copy of this in your application, and you can see the overall layout that she is proposing at this location. And this is all in that northwest corner of that property, right across from the Funnerview Golf Course.
Thank you, Mr. Nabity.
Public hearing is now open. Could we get Jeffrey Edwards?
You want me to log into your email?
No, yeah, you probably can't log into my email, but I thought I'd bring this back up so you can.
All right, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Jeffrey Edwards. I live at 2109 East Stolly Park, which would be the first house as you go east down Stolly Park after you get through the what's been a cornfield the last several years. I understand it's a conditional use permit. We were made aware of it a week ago, so we've had basically, since I think we had an envelope put in our door last Monday, so not a lot of time to study and figure out what exactly conditional use permit is and whether, an RV/trailer park, is legit to go into what I consider our small little neighborhood that's outside of city limits. One thing that I don't know has been taken into account, the comment was that they would be hooking up to or putting in wells for water usage. The well right now that farmland there is irrigated, so when he's running his irrigation, the water in our lake goes way down, and obviously with the drought we've been in the last 12, 18 months, the water levels dropped quite a bit. So I don't know, I'm not a geographical expert or geologist, I guess would be the case. So I don't know what that's going to do to further take those resources away from us. So we're here tonight just to say I understand it's a conditional use permit that has to be approved by the city council, and we request that you do not approve it. Just probably half a mile to the north on Stir Road, and I don't know how many lots there are on Fauner Park, but there's already RV trailer access and use available in the same neighborhood. And I'd say probably 75% of the year when I drive by there, it's not even half full. So it's not even a case where this is a need in our area. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tasha?
Hate public speaking, so bear with me. So, Tasha Edwards, 2109 East Stolly Park Road. I'm here a couple different reasons. One of them is our Sandy Beach area that we have there. Everybody that's moved out there for the privacy, for the peace, for not having businesses right next door, not having the traffic coming in and out, not having neighbors, and for the safety. We all know each other. There's a lot of us women that are out there. We're home by ourselves during the day. We all know each other. We watch out for each other and keep up with each other. One of my biggest concerns, I mean, the world is crazy these days, and we've got 8 RV trailer park places that, and she listed the information, like Jeff said, that we received last week, that they're going to be short-term. So we're going to have 8 strangers multiple times moving in and out of this RV area, people that we don't know, that there's no background checks for. We've got the small lake behind our house that is accessible through that cornfield. How many of them are going to be out exercising their horses and riding their horses and bringing them there and over on our property and over on our We have one other wife from our area that's here. Nobody else was able to make it here because, again, we just found out about this last Monday. Everybody else had other things going on. But with the exception of one person in our Sandy Beach area, every single person in that area is against this happening. And we're all for local businesses. We're all for entrepreneurships and people doing things that they're passionate about. But this is scary for us to have this there. I think Mr. Nabity said that it's 1,700 feet from my front door. And you know, again, we don't know who all's there. I guess the other part I would like to ask, you know, we were here a few months ago with the Planning Commission when Mr. Rezak, that lives on the other side, wanted to have his area rezoned for residential, and it was approved. And you know, we now have he now has plots. I think there's 4 plots in there to have residential homes moved in there. And all of us said then, this is kind of the beginning of the end for our peace and quiet that we have out here. And so we have a few months ago, we have those were approved. Now we're looking at an RV trailer park that sitting right down the road from us. And if it's approved, what's coming next? You know, the whole purpose and the reason that we moved out there, we're getting kind of, I don't know, just a lot of things are coming in on it. You know, what's next? Are we going to have a subdivision right next door to us? So I know I'm all for progress and everything, but also I just feel like that it should be taken into consideration the reason why we live in these houses that we live in, the reason why we moved to the area that we moved into, and the fact that things like this just keep taking away from what those reasons are. So I would just like to ask you to consider that as you're deciding on whether you want to move forward with allowing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this item? If not,
The applicant, Amy Webster, is here and just did not get signed in.
Okay, I apologize, I thought I was on.
No, you had to, sorry, I was looking for you to sign, to get you signed in.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mayor and council members. I am Amy Webster, and I live on the corner of Sturr and Stolly Park Road. I live on the property full-time. My grandchildren visit regularly. I keep my horses on this property. It is my home. It goes without saying that I agree with everyone here that safety is the utmost concern and must be upheld and guarded at all times. My values align with yours. My values also align with the people I wish to cater to, offering a beautiful, private, secure place to stay when they come to Grand Island. These people that would be coming, I consider them to be my people. They're families that come from rural settings that base their lives and their business and their hobbies around their farm life and their livestock. I've traveled all over the country with horses and competed, and having a secure, safe place to stay with your family is of utmost importance, and having it close to the livestock, show cattle, horses, hogs, sheep, whatever you're hauling with your children and your family, being close to them is of utmost importance, and that is something just being at this property offers. I'm just kitty corner from Fauner Park, so it's just it dovetails in there very nicely to be accessible. They're good people. Obviously, if they have livestock, they have a lot of work ethic, a lot of dedication to that lifestyle and that which they care about. I'm only asking to put in 8 spots. I've worked on it extensively and planned it within the park. I immediately talked to the NRD. They've said a well will be just fine. To go onto the property, it's a low capacity well because it doesn't take a lot of water to maintain just 8 spots. I guess where I'm located right there, I think is fantastic because it's a peaceful place, but also gives them great access to the amenities of Grand Island. When I drive through town, it seems like there is a motel on every corner, and more being built all the time. And there's some families that just, for many personal reasons, need to travel in a motorhome or prefer to travel in a camper and stay more as a unit unto themselves. And this answers that need. There's very little opportunity to camp in Grand Island. And this is alternative to the Fauner Park facility where they're lined up on gravel. There's not trees, there's not a picnic area, there's not space for families to stay. And that's more what I'm wanting to do, is to be a little bit more upscale. It's a sensible layout and design. I'm lining up quality construction. And yes, of course, I'm planning beautiful landscape. It is my backyard. It's something that I will tend with a great deal of dedication and thoughtfulness. It's something I want to be proud of, and therefore the community and my neighbors around me can also be proud of it when they come by. I have reached out to them with my phone number and offered to meet, to answer any questions, to talk about it further. I'd welcome, any questions or concerns to be addressed from each of you. I have a representative or a person that's my contact at DWEE, which is the Department of Water, Energy, and Environment, Carrie Dunsing. I have her number if you have any further questions or concerns about it. I talked to her today. She said, absolutely, pass along her information. You can reach out to her in Lincoln. She's very well versed on what I need to do. I guess that's all that I have to say. I appreciate the opportunity to come tonight. I guess I would like to add, we were talking about the 1,700 feet between the park driveway and the first neighbor driveway. There's 4 fence lines and a cornfield in between. Until I took the letters around last week, I didn't even know there was a lake over there. I ride my horses there all the time. I don't leave my property with my horses. I don't plan on travelers really bringing their horses. It's just a place to camp and stay. And I don't consider livestock, rural families to be people that are threatening to our community. By all means, I live by the Nebraska State Fair, and these are people we just need to welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? If not, public hearing is now closed.
Council members, is there a motion? Mr. O'Neill?
I move we approve 2026-37.
Mr. Brown?
I second that motion.
Discussion? Mr. Haase?
Thank you, Mayor. When I read the application, and I want to just make a couple of comments on it, I heard the words trailer park, but actually the application is for a campground. And so there's a difference just in the connotation of what a trailer park is versus a campground. The quarter mile between, there's a buffer, the cornfield, and as she mentioned, there is a buffer between that and the residential neighborhood. The application says it's an upscale and short-term, and so that's very, very different than what I think is a trailer park. It has a welcome and check-in building on it. It has a gazebo. It's really nicely drawn out on what we're seeing, and so I'm going to support the application.
Mr. Nickerson?
I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this a little bit tonight. I went about this thing kind of backwards, and I'm not sure why, but I actually looked at the concern letter first. So when I got into it, I was saying, okay, here's the concerns of this RV park that's coming in. And I started reading through that, and I looked at the overhead view, panned out clear to where Fauner Parks are at, and I'm thinking, so they're going to put a big RV park in here. So I think I can understand what's going on, understand some of the concerns, and then I started reading the application that said 8 sites. I thought, 8? We're making all this fuss over 8 sites? And I looked at the layout just as you proposed, and I thought, you know what? This thing looks like it's going to fit just right. And looking at your overhead view today, and I'm assuming what you had squared off there was about half of the property. So it's not even the full property, not the full 4.3 acres. It looks like they're using roughly half of that. And it looks like it is laid out very nicely. Ms. Edwards alluded to some things that are very real with all of us today. And the very first thing is change is scary. It is always scary. Where I live over around 5 Points, I had beautiful open fields there. Guess what? They put up 24 duplexes, and I had a fit But you know what? They fit in there beautifully and they look nice, and I can't wait till the others are finished and they're all done. Change is scary. Across the field that I'm looking at, they're going to be building some homes over the next few years. It will be just fine. It will not be what I signed on for when I was there. I had nice open fields, quiet areas. It'll probably still be quiet, but it's different. But it's okay. Change is inevitable, and we need to be aware of that. This is not a Mitchell Nickerson RV park where my water feature would probably be an inflatable swimming pool with some rubber ducks in there. I think it's going to be a little better than that. I think they're going to have a very nice, aesthetically pleasing site that's going to just enhance the area. I don't see where it's going to harm it in any way whatsoever. So change is scary, and I'm the first one to be in line with that. Change is scary, but it's okay. It's okay. The other thing I looked at, because we were talking about concerns, I went to Google and said, okay, are RV parks safe? Are RV parks safe in rural areas? Are RV parks safe here and there? Started doing a little research, and you know what they talked about, most of them, especially in the rural, they're always worried about congestion. They're worried about the noise. They're worried about infrastructure. They're worried about the overall appearance and how that'll affect property. I see all these have been addressed within this proposal. The congestion, we've got 8 sites. That's it, 8. And they fit in there very nicely. The noise, they have electrical plug-ins, so you shouldn't be listening to any generators humming through the night. The infrastructure will accommodate the water and the sewer and the things that need to be done there. And the overall appearance is going to be, as we stated, aesthetically pleasing. So I don't see any issues there. The other thing is the buffer, as Chuck already alluded. I drove out there today, and I just took a look at the property, and you got that whole big giant cornfield there between the properties. And then as I drove down, you know what I saw at the very first property was a small RV. I went to the next property, I saw a small enclosed trailer. So see, they're already out there. They're just not on a campsite. We already have those things out there, and some of those things probably won't be allowed on the RV park. The enclosed trailer probably couldn't be stored there. So I think overall, when we take a look at this, I think the proposal is just fine. And the other thing to remember, that a conditional use permit can be revoked if things aren't followed properly. It doesn't mean it's going to be there forever. I have no reason to believe it won't be successful, but it sounds like everything that the Websters want to put into it, including the fencing and everything that goes with it. The water feature fascinates me already because I think water features are cool. I can't wait to see what that would be. But those are all good things, and it will actually enhance that corner more than it is today, which is just land. It's just land. And I know you like your land. I know people love land. They like the openness. But I think the overall result's going to be really good. I have no objections to it because of the things that are already addressed. Those things that are concerned from people about RV parks are addressed in this proposal tonight, so I support that.
Mr. O'Neill?
I appreciate your concerns tonight, and I understand why you're concerned. I live really close to this area, and I just want to share some of my experience with you too. So you guys will be about 1,700 feet away from it. I live less than 200 feet away from the one at Fauner, so I'm very familiar with living near an RV park. And that one came in, I don't know, probably about 15 years ago, I think. And I'll be honest, at the time, I wasn't very excited about it coming over there. I thought, man, what is this going to do? Who's going to be here? I had a lot of those concerns. Living there for the next 15 years past that, I'll be honest, I've not had issues with it. I've got to know some people in the RV community, and I know there's a big concern over these people are going to be here for 4 or 5 days at a time. Who are these strangers in my neighborhood? I get it. I question that too. I have some friends that are in the RV community, and what I realized is it takes a lot of money to RV. And what I found is there's usually a lot of very good people doing it. I've learned there's a lot of retirees that are people during early retirement going to RVs. There's families in there. I see it every day from my living room window even, and I do not see a police presence there. I do not hear noise issues, and I'm within 200 feet. I know you're not excited about it, but we have not had issues really in our area. But I would expect if there are issues that they'd be reported to Amy. And if this is approved tonight, if there are routine issues, this could come back up for review as well too. And to Mr. Nabity, I know something was mentioned about the farm owner, or I assume he was notified as well too, correct?
Yes, yes. And actually, the owner of the property, the farm ground in between, is Rick Johnson, who was here a couple weeks ago with his development there on Gun Barrel. And while we were talking about that, I mentioned to him that I had received this application. And so I don't know what his feelings are, but he isn't here this evening.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to share what some of our experiences were, and I've talked to many of my neighbors out there as well too, and it has not really bothered people in our neighborhood. We personally have not had issues. I hope that you don't either, but if you did have issues, I think there's a way to report them, and if there was a string of things happening, I think that things could come back to be revisited too, so.
Mr. Conley? You'll have to come up to the speakers or the microphones.
Sorry, just a quick question. Why were we not notified by the city that this was going to be an agenda item? If obviously Mr. Nabity notified the farm owner, why didn't he notify the rest of us that are in the same area?
Fair question. The requirement is to notify property owners within 200 feet. So the property, he's adjacent to this and almost a quarter mile long. So people on the other side of his property would not be notified. And his notification was, while I was talking to him about his other application, it was not a formal notification, it was an informal notification.
Mr. Conley?
This question's for Amy. You'll have to come back up, sorry. Simple question, just, is this gonna be short-term, or are you looking at like doing like a lease for, like an annual lease?
No,
Or kind of first come,
it's
first served?
classified as short-term, and I believe the requirement is 180 days maximum for
Okay.
a unit to stay in a space.
Okay, that's all I had.
That is in the conditions, is the 180 days. Where that comes from is the definition of permanent residency, that if you are a permanent resident and that's your permanent address, you are staying there 180 days primarily. So that's a very standard term in one of these.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Sheard?
Thank you. Couple things. I completely understand the comments that you guys made, and reading your letter, kind of like Mitch, I thought, okay, this has got to be bad. And I looked at it and kind of felt the same way Mitch did. It's maybe not so bad. But I do understand your worries that this leads to something else, and that gets closer and closer and closer, and the gentleman that has the land between you and this has already turned one property into something else. Unfortunately, we can't do anything to stop somebody from, doing something within their rights. But I understand that if it's this, then it's another thing, and it's another thing. But tonight, it's this. We can't talk about what could happen down the line. I don't like that we're making decisions for people that live outside city limits. To me, that bothers me a little bit. It's connected to city limits. It's within the jurisdiction for us. It's totally legal, and it's the way it is. But I can understand that frustration as well. I wish that you guys could get together. You're all huddled over there. There's some people between you that are interested in this area as well, sitting out there. I wonder if you guys had more time to talk and explain things. It's unfortunate that you haven't had time to sit and talk before it got to meeting each other tonight here and speaking to us. I'm a fan of people figuring things out by talking, maybe over an ice lemonade. I hate that it comes to us. I think it's a neat project. I like everything about it, but it's not in my backyard. So I understand the frustration. It is kind of unfortunate the way it's all going out. So that's all I got to say.
Mr. Nickerson?
Chad, I just have a couple of questions for you on this TA zoning.
Yes.
According, and I didn't read it in detail, but when I was just looking at permitted uses, it said dwelling units was at the very first of the
Right.
things. What does that mean? Dwelling
house.
units? I know, but what kind of houses, how many houses, what?
In the TA zone, we allow one house per 20 acres, just like
20
we do in the ag zone.
Okay.
A house is allowed as part of a farm, although if you own 80 acres, you can do a one-time split from that 80-acre tract. If you own 25 acres and you have a house on it and it's been there 10 years, you can split that house off and build another one. So it is really to limit the density of those houses, because these are areas where we do not have sewer and water. We're not ready to extend sewer and water, and it really is designed to limit that density so that someday we can grow through these areas when it's affordable to grow through them.
My second question is about the 200-foot notification rule. I can understand in a city where things more dense and everybody's closer together and how something I'm doing here can affect people in closer proximity. It seems odd that that 200-foot rule applies even to a rural area such as this.
It does, and in the county, it's 300 feet. In the rural parts of the county is the actual statutory distance. Can you set that further? Yes, you could, but if this was just a little bit to the north, well, if it was just east of Councilman O'Neill's house, there on Nebraska and Store Road, essentially, if we extended that to 1,000 feet, we'd be notifying everybody to Mavis Bowl. So the number of letters that we would be sending would be extensive.
It's just difficult to have, I mean, one size does not fit all, but that's what we got to work with.
But that's
in this
what we've
case.
got to work with, and we do have, we put a sign out on the property so that people who live in the area and drive by can see that there is a zoning action occurring. That goes up at least 10 days prior to the meeting. And we also publish in the newspaper as required by law, so if you're reading the public notices, you would know that. Notification is always difficult.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chad.
Please vote. Motion adopted.
7C, public hearing on request from Industrial Tower West for conditional use permit for a telecommunications tower site located at 1231 Allen Drive, south of West 13th Street, south of Target, on the west side of Bosselman's Pump and Pantry. Good evening.
Evening. All right, like stated, the applicant is requesting a telecommunications tower conditional use permit to allow for them to upgrade the indoor coverages for voice and data. Their property is zoned general business, and within the general business, the towers are not allowed outright, and it has to be approved by council. They are proposing a 50-foot light pole tower, so it will be aesthetically pleasing. It will fit into the neighborhood, and it should not stand out. They have submitted all the documents required by our comprehensive plan and our zoning regulations. They will also. Sorry about that. The location of the site being proposed will not hinder any of our existing easements that we have there. We are also limiting the site to 50 feet to include the antennas on the towers as well. We are also requesting that the site is upkept, no debris, all shrubs, and debris to be off of the property.
Public hearing is now open. Mr. Reha?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and administrators. Like Rashad said, it's a 50-foot aesthetic telecommunications light pole. And do we have the simulation picture in here? Which kind of paints it a little bit better. It's in that. Yeah, there you go. Thanks. That's it. Okay. Like Rashad said, we chose this here specific targeted area because we're pretty much halfway between our tower site at our Viera Wireless store on Capitol Avenue and 281. And then to the south, we're equally distanced from the Viera Wireless store by the Kohl's store. And this is pretty much nicely centrally located. And as we all know, it's being well developed. And we really need to improve our in-building coverage for not only data, but also voice. So thought about a monopole, but I chose this one because we don't have one here yet in Grand Island. I have one in North Platte by the high school. On top is where the concealed antennas will be. Down below, we're going to match our security wall, fence, whatever you want to call it, with Bosselman's garbage can area. And it'll probably more or less be painted differently. We'll kind of make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So inside that concrete block wall, decorative concrete block wall, will obviously be the pole. An outdoor cabinet to store the radio equipment, and I want to say there's going to be a light apparatus extending toward Bosselman's garbage area because there's not a light out there yet, there to the north. So I really like this location. I like the type of improvement. I like the development in the area. It's going to fit well, and be more than glad to take any questions or concerns.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? If not, public hearing is now closed.
Mr. O'Neill?
I move we approve 2026-38.
Mr. Conley?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Mr. Nickerson?
Just out of curiosity, this being a 50-foot tower, how does that compare in height to the monopole down Capitol area? What's that height, just out of curiosity?
Our pole on 281 and Capitol Avenue at a retail store, is that what you're referring to?
Yep.
Yeah. I want to say that's about a 50-foot or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I call that one a pipe because it's got a bigger, thicker diameter.
I remember when we were discussing that, and there was a little concern from one of our council members. Afterward, he thought it didn't look like he expected it to, and I thought it looked just great. But I mean, everybody in their mind's eye, things look different. And this one's even different than that one.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, obviously it serves the purpose. We need it. I was just curious, height-wise, so they're about comparable in height, it appears. Okay, very good, thanks. Good.
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Ordinance number 10062, consideration of approving changes to Chapter 15 of City Code involving electric utility commercial deposits, second and final reading. Is there a motion to suspend the statutory rules? Mr. Hossie?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we suspend the rules.
And Mr. Brown?
I second that motion.
Any discussion? Please vote.
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Mr. Schmitz, please tell us what this is about.
Yes, so this is a slight revision from the last time through where this would restrict the changes to any customer that's over 1,000 kW in demand or greater. I have a short PowerPoint to give a little bit of background because I feel that's necessary to understand. I feel my duty is to protect the ratepayers and bring things forward as I see them, and whether you guys find it fit or not is up to you. I have no dog in the race, but I wanted to bring this forward. And I also apologize for being what stands behind people seeing the end of the Nebraska game and not. So a little history. Deposits in Grand Island. The earliest language goes back to 1964. So from 1964 to 1980, the maximum deposit allowed on the books was 2 times the monthly bill. Now, in 1964, they also established a normal rate, which for residential was $10, trailers was $25, commercial was $50, and they had another tier too. It's slipping off my mind right now. Yep, and that existed up until 1980. So in 1980, they revised the deposit language to be just commercial. So from 1980 to 1983, the book said deposits were just commercial up to 2 times the monthly bill. In 1983 is when the language was revised to what it says today, which is capped at $2,000. Now, although we're talking about deposits, it's also necessary to understand the late fee and collection side of things to really grasp what's going on. From 1906 to 1962, there was a thing called forfeited discounts, which was always strange to me because if you look, when I started, account 450, FERC account 450 was for late fees. Well, the account's called forfeited discounts. Well, that goes back to 1906. And at those times, they gave you a 10% discount on your bill if you paid within 10 days of the bill going out. And so that existed on the books up until 1962. That's where we can verify. There's likely it went longer. That's where we lose track of it. 1989, the language changed to $2 plus 1% of the bill. That was the late fee. And that existed all the way up until 2020 or 2022, which is what it is today, a 3% of your bill. Collections. So pulled some numbers from 2025. We had 9,800 stop and transfer requests. Of those, about 9.8% end up in collections throughout the year. So that amounts to about 953 accounts in 2025. So we sent $275,000 to collections. Collection company was able to recoup $27,000 to date, which is 10% of what was turned in, and $6,800 of what was recouped, or 25%, we paid back to the collection company. So that's a total realized loss of $254,800 approximately. So commercial deposits, this is kind of how, and I'm sorry, I should have had this. I didn't realize I didn't have it on the full. There you go. I'm sorry. Most other cities have gone to 2 times the max on deposits. And again, we're not asking that here tonight, but it's important to understand. Grand Island's $2,000. Lincoln's an anomaly. They do not charge a deposit up front, but once you're delinquent, then you're on the books for a deposit. And Fremont has language that allows them to exceed $500 once you're delinquent as well. The holding time for the other cities, a couple are life of the account. Many are 4 years. There's a couple 2 years. We're 1 year. And again, Lincoln changes once you're delinquent. The average monthly bill by customer class is approximately $82 for residential, $112 for small commercial, which would be your single phase. Large commercial is $733, and industrial is north of $20,000. Again, this language is not being requested tonight, but just to give context, a deposit greater than $2,000 of which customers would fall into that requirement. There'd be 0 residential, 9 of our 2,340 small commercial would have fit that, 358 out of 2,178 large commercial, and pretty much all of our industrials. Number of accounts with greater than 1,000 kW of demand. So to put kW in perspective, the average residential customer uses about 1,000 kilowatt hours a month, plus or minus. So now think of all the energy used in your house for the entire month, used all at once for 30 minutes minimum. That's 1,000 kW. So that's a lot of power. The peak load in Grand Island today was 92 megawatts. So that's about 1.1% of the total city draw is 1,000 kW. So that's the threshold we're asking for here tonight. So industrials, that would affect, now again, we're not asking to put this on any existing customers. This would be new customers. If it were to be put on existing customers, it would affect 8 industrial accounts and 0 commercial and 0 residential, just to give context. So if you put a CPI adjustment on what was the changes made, so 1980, again, it was 2 times your monthly bill. We equated that to $2,000 for the graph. That's why you see a flat line at the top until 83. So that $2,000 in today's money would be $6,200 approximately. And you can see as time has gone on, the value of that money trends down until today, what would be $2,000 today. And just to give context on the risk of big entities and delinquent payments, a company the size of JBS, if they were to default on 2 payments, which is when we do shutoffs, that would equate to 1.5% rate increase across the entire rate base. This is a picture of kind of the late fee trend. The blue line is the number of delinquents for commercial on the left, industrials on the right. The orange line is the amount of late fees assessed. So on the commercial and industrial, one thing to notice is the amount of delinquencies isn't greatly increasing, the count, but the amount does. You see a jump on commercial in 2022 to 2023, and a part of that is the change in how we assess late fees. It was $2 plus 1%, we changed it to 3%. So on top of that, in the last 3 years, we've also seen it continue to increase, and most of that is part of what I'm here today for, is seeing increased usage. Electric usage in all commercial and industrial continues to go up. The loads that are coming in and asking to locate in Grand Island, many of which you don't hear about, they continue to circulate are large loads. The bottom graph is really residential, but the top is just a late fee picture of what others are doing for late fees. So many others have a minimum on their late fees. We have no minimum, and our ask is 3% for any late fee assessments. Now this was an interesting graph. I wanted to bring this forward. So this was done by a company called High Radius, but the data's from 2023, but I found it still pertinent. So the top is your bad debt divided by residential sales, and the bottom is bad debt divided by commercial and industrial sales. And what they found was across all industries, 0.16 was an average performer. And so the blue line you can see on each graph is where that 0.16. They further got granular and broke it down to the utility sector. And so in 2022, the second year of their data set, it was 0.41%. And so that's the green line on each graph. And you can see that in residential, we've exceeded that for some time. Commercial, we are starting to exceed that as well. Again, we're not asking to do anything tonight. I'm just want to show you the whole picture. And I put the orange line in. So the vertical orange line was the last time deposits were brought to council in 2018. And so that was the trend line coming in, and you can see what's gone on. At that time, it was decided to stay status quo on deposits. And so, again, we're just continuing to watch this. We're not asking for action on this tonight. And then the last thing, one thing so people understand, there might be one more slide, is in the text at the top is very small, but from left to right, it's Grand Island, MPPD, OPPD, LES, Fremont, and Southern Power. And this is our shut-off schedule. So the yellow box, which I know it's hard to read, but the yellow box designates at what point in the process we issue a shut-off order. So Grand Island actually doesn't issue a shut-off order until after the second delinquent, or the second bill is delinquent. Then they'll issue a shut-off order. And a lot of times, by the time that order is issued, you're only 5 or 6 days from the third bill going out. So that's why we discuss 2 times your monthly bill as a deposit. Now, I could be wrong, but I believe the only state statute is 7 days notice before shut-off. I think the rest of the schedule is self-governing as far as how we go about it. But you can tell, so the only one that's more lenient than Grand Island is LAS. They're the middle column. And the most restrictive is Southern Power, who issues a shut-off notice before the second bill goes out the door. So those are the extremes. And so just last, on delinquent accounts, if anybody's wondering, 91% of our delinquents are residential, 8.7% are commercial. Of our shut-offs issued, 93.8% were residential and 6.7% were commercial. And as you would guess, industrial, very rarely you ever have a shut-off order in industrial. They have a lot to lose. So with that said, again, what we're asking for tonight is just to allow deposits of 2 times usage, two times a monthly bill on 1,000 kW or more. So your entire monthly bill of your house compacted into a half hour. And then 2 years, they can have 1 late payment in 2 years, and then they get their money back. And then on contracts, so on contract customers, which only affect cogeneration, interruptible, and economic rates, to lock that payment in for the life of the contract. And a lot of the ones who are making these big down payments prefer a surety bond or irrevocable letter of credit, which are allowed many other places. So that's the 4th item to allow that. And again, I just want to finish by saying I don't have a dog in the fight. I understand all sides of this. I just wanted to paint some context. I'm open to the dialogue, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
I move that we approve 10,062.
Mr. Sheard.
I'll second that.
Discussion, Mr. Hossie.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ryan. I think at the last meeting, this information would have been helpful as well, and I appreciate you bringing it back, because what the information that our annual reports show, we have had pretty consistently at 154, 221, 198,000 per year in uncollectible accounts. That's what your financials show. And it's been pretty consistent, right around 0.3%. So for every $100 you bill, in total, it doesn't break it down like you were breaking it down, but in total, for every $100 you bill, we aren't able to collect about 30 cents. And that's probably, I think you were talking maybe 16 cents versus the 30. I'm not sure where that number is. But it's been consistent, and it doesn't show the same upward increases as your charts were. And these are off the last 3 annual reports. So when I was looking at this initially, I didn't see any risk outside of the new contract people you have. So the utility department has started to have, and I can't remember, is there 3 contract vendors?
Yes, there's 3 different buckets.
Yeah, so of the 3 of the contract vendors who are going to be high energy, like use a lot of electricity, those things, they're already paying less probably than I am, for my residential rate per kilowatt hour. So I think that our risk tolerance can be built into the contract. If they're a risky person, I want to see those contracts account for the risk factor. And I think they need to be covering their own risk. I don't want the other 3,000 commercial or the 20,000 residentials covering the risk of a contract. Like if that person comes in with a high energy, we'll just say an AI, data farm, I don't want the rest of the community to take over responsibility for the risk there. So I think that's where I was looking at. And I didn't see any large movements in bad debt or uncollectible accounts, and so I thought that everything was looking pretty stable. We do have the late fee surcharge, which generally covers most, can't find those numbers, I don't know what they are, how much money we actually collect, but it should cover the cost of collection and maybe some of the bad debt. But we also have a certain amount of bad debt that's already built into the rate structure. So when you do rate studies and you say, here's what it's going to be, bad debt is a part of every business's rates. Walmart probably has, 10 times this in shoplifting alone. So what I'm saying is that you can't shoplift electricity. A little hard to carry it with you. And so we have a very low bad debt. And I think maybe what your chart showed, is that it's getting worse. Maybe it's increasing a little bit. On the historical side, the residential, we didn't used to pay interest on deposits, and then all of a sudden we were required to pay interest on deposits. Our residential deposits, and we had thousands and thousands of them, they were all like $25. And it was costing us more than $25 to manage the $25 every time they moved. So we were spending more than the deposit. So that's why we got rid of residential, because it wasn't, you're either going to have to collect 200 or 300, for a residential, or you get out of the business. Just take on the risk, and that is what it is. And so it was the cost of us and managing the multitude of deposits. That's what caused us to get out of the residential deposit business. And since then, we stopped paying interest on deposits here a while back. Although I found it interesting that we still have $10,000 in deposit interest payable at the end of our last year. So I would suggest pay it back, pay the interest back, on the deposit interest payable. We shouldn't still be sitting on that, even if they're an existing customer. But that's what I was looking at. When it gets to an uncollectible account, I don't know what the time period is. It's not 1 year. We don't write them off at a year.
I think it's 90 days, 80% of the account after 90 days. And 24 gives a bad example because we paused everything with collections because we switched billing systems. So there was
There was a lift in uncollectible accounts in 24. Yeah, and that was.
Yeah, so the 24 was kind of an anomaly in the trend because of that situation.
Yeah, so you're talking about right now the 1,000 kV or demand or greater. That limits the number of customers who this would apply to. My biggest concern was I didn't want to have it detrimental for a business who wants to come to Grand Island to start up if all of a sudden they have to have a $1,000 deposit or a $2,000 or a $10,000, whatever it is, depending on what kind of business it is and how much electrical, what their electric usage is. If it's just a retail store, it's probably not going to be very high. But if you're a little manufacturer and you might actually use a lot of electricity, it could be insurmountable to, not want to come to Grand Island because they couldn't afford the deposit. Now, I do like the other alternative forms that you have there, and so those are options, I think, for the businesses. And so I'm glad you brought it up here. I wished I'd have seen it before the meeting, so.
I was putting it together today, so.
Okay, but see, that's what I was looking for, because the things that I was looking at is we weren't bad. We don't have any major problems brewing that I can see from an annual financial report. And I don't want the existing customers paying the risk factor or the risk part of these new contract employees that use a lot of electricity. And so I want them to pay whatever that risk factor is, because I'm not sure these contract customers, I'm not sure if they're good or bad for Grand Island yet. I know they use a lot of electricity, they pay us a lot of money, but I'm guessing it's not going to drive any customer's bills down. And if it's not going to benefit the current 20,000 residential customers or the current 3,000 commercial customers, who's it benefiting? And what I see is that maybe the demand, all of a sudden we have to build another gas turbine or buy another gas turbine or do something else to provide more electricity, then everybody's paying. And I don't want everybody to start paying this risk factor. So that's all my concern was, and I think you've addressed most of it, Ryan, so I appreciate the information.
I'll add that behind the scenes, we've had loads comparable to this data center that have come in, and they could easily locate on a class 100 rate if they wanted to. And so that would, again, expose us to a $2,000 deposit on an entity that might draw a load comparable to Swift or in that neck. So I guess my whole point was here, the future is much different than the past on the demand for energy. And you read any news article, you're going to see that. And so something like this at least puts a line in the sand that says, hey, anything that's getting above this size, we're going to protect ourselves. And most of these companies, once they get to that size, they understand. In fact, they're surprised if they don't have to. You know, it's not even a conversation point when you're dealing with people who are dealing with sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. So.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Mr. Nickerson.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, for helping clarify a lot of this. I know you answered some questions for me a couple of weeks ago, which helped me because I had some similar concerns that Chuck had, especially with new people or trying to push people out that might already, have an account. We're not asking anybody that currently has an account to do this. It's the new customers that you were referencing. My question's a little different, and I might engage Stacy on this as well. And we've been talking about shutoff, so that's why we're segueing into the shutoff part of it. What process do we have? We don't have a process in place anymore, as we did a couple of years ago, to notify landlords when a tenant is in shutoff status. And there are reasons for that I don't always understand. I understand why we probably can't do what we were doing, but I don't understand why we can't do something different than we're doing, because we do have a dog in the fight at that point. If a tenant is in shutoff status and the landlord does not know, they can walk out the door. We don't know. And when it's 10 below zero, shut off electricity, and then we have no heat to that house. And then we have the risk of frozen pipes. What do we do about that? How in the world are we addressing that? I know maybe the law says we don't have to do that anymore, can't do that anymore. But why would we not want to have a secondary, to your point, secondary source that can pay that bill, which I have on more than one occasion and got reimbursed later from a tenant, to make sure that wasn't shut off. So I'm after, where are we with that whole thing? Can we do anything? I know Brian was working on that when he was employed with us, but we didn't get anywhere that I know of. I'm just kind of curious where we're at with that whole thing. Is it even possible to do, or is landlords at risk in that situation?
If the landlord doesn't put the utilities in their own name, that's at their risk. If it is in the tenant's name, that utility account, by many statutes, we don't give up that information. We can't give that information to police departments. They have to ask for subpoenas to get even the name of who owns an account at an address. So that is like highly, highly protected information. So asking utilities to tell a landlord that their tenant is in shut-off status when that account is not in the landlord's name, it is in the tenant's name, would be violating state law.
And is that because we're a municipality?
No,
Because
that's across the state. That's state law, not municipality. It's any utility.
I'll differ with you on that. When I have a tenant that's in shut-off status with a gas bill, guess who gets notified? I do. I get notified, doesn't tell me when.
Gas bills and electric bills have different rules. Electric has its own set of rules in state statute. So that's a utility, an electric utility, they have their own set of rules. By those rules, we cannot give out account information to anybody who is not an account holder. So if you are not listed as an account holder, we cannot give you any information on that.
Is there anything in the setup of an account where a landlord would be put in as a not resident,
I
but a
don't
co-account?
know, like, obviously, I'm not on the legal side. In the software itself, it can push out text notifications and email notifications. I think what people find is texts are best because you look at that. But from my understanding is the customer has to request that. You can't just sign them up for that. And I thought there was some legal, I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but I know it's a function that you can send out a text, you can send out an email, and they do that for people who are signed up and on the shut-off list. But it only goes to the person on the account right now, from what I understand.
Yeah, so my question would be, as a landlord, do I sign up as a secondary account holder in that case? And can both be notified, or does just one get notified? Is there a primary, secondary? Can you let them both know? Because in Colorado Springs, I'm set up very similar to my house there, to where I'm notified. I'm notified if the water usage seems to be high. I'm notified by that. So it's happening somewhere. It's done. I just don't know why we don't do it here. And I know what we did in the past we shouldn't have been doing. I used to get phone calls, which I hated to see that call because I knew somebody was going to get shut off. But I was glad to get the call because I could make a call and we could get it taken care of. It puts landlords at risk, and I'm looking for a way to keep the landlords from being at risk in these situations. In the extreme weather events, mostly in the winter, you don't have air conditioning, turn on a fan for a while, but when the pipes are about to freeze, you got a lot bigger problems on your hands. And that's what I'm hoping we can somehow figure out a way. Could you have joint account holders? Something I can poke at deeper, but it's a real situation that we have here in town. Looks like Stacy had something else to add.
Just trying to rein that back in, because what you're talking about is off topic of what Ryan had presented. If that is a topic that you want to continue to address about residential, because this is not residential, this is commercial, this has to do with deposit. What you want to talk about, you need to get in touch with city legal and we can start looking at it for you, but we have to bring it back to the topic.
I understand, but we were talking about shut-off, so that segued me into that. So I understand what our topic is tonight and support it. All righty, thank you.
Please vote. Motion adopted.
Thank you. We are adjourned.